Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the camera comparison between the iPhone 14, the Google Pixel 6, and the Samsung Galaxy S22 as well. Now, all these phones are at varying different types of cameras. I will say the Pixel 6 is not really trying to compete with the iPhone 14 or S22, but it's still a phone that's around the same caliber, and I think it's still kind of keeping up pretty well with those type of phones. So if you want to pick up either one of these phones, I'll leave them linked down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, before we get into the photos, a really big portion of how these cameras operate are just within the raw features and the sensors themselves. Now, with the iPhone 14, we're getting a dual camera setup. So we're getting a wide angle lens and an ultra wide camera. On the Samsung Galaxy S22, we are getting a triple camera setup. So we're getting a wide angle lens, we're getting an ultra wide sensor, giving us that 0.5x zoom, but we're also getting that telephoto lens, which allows us to zoom into a photo a lot more than something like the iPhone 14. So that is something that, like the triple camera setup on the iPhone 14 Pro, where we have that, telephoto lens, that is something that is missing on the, iPhone 14. It's also missing on the Pixel 6. So that is one of those things to keep in mind. You are lacking of lenses on both these phones that the Galaxy S22 does actually have. Now on the Pixel 6, we have kind of the same setup as the iPhone 14. So we have that wide angle lens, and we also have that ultra wide camera as well. Now in terms of video resolutions we can film in, all of these phones can film in 4K at 60 on the back of these phones. So that is pretty big things to keep in mind. So you're going to be getting that fairly high resolution on all these phones, which I think is really important. However, with the Galaxy S22, you are getting that 8K capability. That is something that not a lot of phones have in the market. No iPhones can film in that type of resolution yet. Only Samsung's and some other manufacturers here and there can film in the 8K resolution. Now, it might be a little overkill, but it's still a really nice feature to have that, like I said before, not a lot of other phone manufacturers have that type of capability. So, ever since the S20 from 2020, Samsung's been able to do this, and I think that's a really cool feature. Unfortunately, the Pixel 6 and the iPhone 14 do not have that type of capability. Now, in terms of the actual raw features in and of themselves, there are a lot of varying features between all of them. I will tell you, in my personal opinion, the Samsung Galaxy S22 does have probably the most amount of features when it comes down to it. You have so many different types of capability and different types of modes within the Samsung camera that it really kind of suits itself better than a lot of other phones in the market. And that is something that Samsung has just been able to do for many, many years now. They drop so many features within their camera that it's not even funny. Now with the Pixel 6, it doesn't cost the same as the S22, at least what it was when it first came out. And you're still getting a lot of features built in. But I will say between the iPhone 14 and the Pixel 6, there are a lot of features that overlap, but the iPhone 14 does have more features built in than the Google Pixel 6. This includes things like cinematic mode, and this includes like this new action mode that just came out with the iPhone 14s. The Google Pixel 6 doesn't really have that type of capability. So in terms of a feature standpoint, I would probably rank them as the Galaxy S22 is number 1, iPhone 14 is number 2, and the Pixel 6 is probably number 3. Now another thing I want to throw in here before I look at the few photos I took is with the social media applications out there. Now, I will say, Samsung, they stated they teamed up with TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram in order to give you the best type of camera quality within them. I will still say, though, in this day and age, the iPhones just work so well within those stock camera applications. I will say it's gotten better in those, social media apps. But if you were talking about the sheer just camera quality, camera features, and, just the way the cameras play within those applications, I think iPhone still has it kind of up and, kind of has a little bit of an advantage if you ask me. So that might be another thing to kind of keep in mind at the end of the day as well. So in terms of that kind of covers up the introduction here. Now let's go and make our way over to my screen, which I have here. And so I kind of compiled all the photos together to kind of give us an idea of how they kind of look like. Now the iPhone 14 photo is on the left, the Google Pixel 6 photo is on the right, and the Galaxy S22 photo is on the bottom right here. So I'll probably just increase this a little bit to kind of give us a little bit of a better playing field. Now I will say from this first photo, there are a lot of different things going on. The first thing that kind of stands out to me is the Pixel 6 photo. It does seem a little bit more grayed out than the iPhone 14 photo. And I will say the iPhone 14 photo looks like it's the brightest to me. when I look at both these photos side by side, the iPhone 14 and Pixel 6, it looks to me that the iPhone 14 photo definitely looks a little bit more vibrant. The Galaxy S22 photo on the bottom definitely looks not as brightened as the iPhone 14. It definitely looks like it's more sharpened though. If we go and take a look at like this bottom leaf right here, we can kind of start to see kind of what's going on between all of them. And in my opinion, as you can see, I tapped the focus on all of them, same exact lighting conditions between both, and you can kind of get an idea of how the leaves kind of hold up between all of them. I think the iPhone 14 photo probably looks the best here, followed by the Galaxy S22 photo, then followed by the Pixel 6. So again, all these photos were taken at the exact same times, tapped the focus on all of them, and I'll probably say the iPhone 14 photo in this specific photo looks to be the best. Now the second photo is one of my favorite ones to take just because it kind of showcases a little bit of difference between all of them, and I can already see some pretty big differences. So if we zoom in to this specific bottom portion right here, we can kind of get an idea of how each one of these phones kind of went ahead and took these photos. Now again, same exact lighting conditions on all of them, and I'm already seeing big differences. With the iPhone 14, the photo looks a little bit more warm. With the Pixel 6, the color looks a little bit more cooler, and with the Galaxy S22, it looks like it's kind of like a mixture between both. In my opinion, I think the Galaxy S22 photo looks a little bit more accurate. That's kind of what this was looking like at that time. I like how the Pixel 6 photo looks a little bit more, I don't know the best way to describe it, but sharper. And it looks a little bit better to me than the iPhone 14 photo, which looks a little bit more warmer. So that might be something to kind of keep in mind. In some of these outdoor shots, at least with a lot of this like warm color, you might be getting varying type of looks. But I think the Galaxy S22 overall did a better job on that specific photo. Now with this one, I literally took it of just this flower, nothing crazy, again, not trying to break any records. And you can see, at least in my opinion, I think once again, the Galaxy S22, the iPhone 14 did a much better job here. Now, one thing that I remember when I was taking this photo was that for some reason, the Galaxy S22 wanted to not blur, it wanted to blur out this specific portion of the leaf, which was very, very weird. So I didn't really know what was going on there. If you kind of look at the background on all these photos, we go and like take a look at this specific portion, and this specific portion, at least to me, it kind of looks like that the iPhone 14 photo looks a little bit more blurred out. Actually, I kind of take that back. All these photos kind of look pretty decent. I think the Galaxy S22 did a better job at kind of keeping the sharpness around the edge of this specific flower. I think the Pixel 6 might have done a better job at blurring out the background though, so that's kind of interesting. And I think the iPhone 14 kind of did a mixture of the two, and I think it did an overall better job at kind of keeping everything kind of in focus and kind of sharpening some things here and there. We can also kind of look at, if we look at this specific portion of the leaf right there, kind of looks the same on all of them. Looks like the S22 kind of blurred it out, where the iPhone 14 was able to keep that in the background as well as the Pixel 6. And I think the background looks better on the iPhone 14 as well. So I think the overall better photo in this specific one would probably go for something like the iPhone 14 as well, at least in this specific example. So now this next one was just of the sky, and I've taken this photo a lot on a lot of my different phones, and I actually do like this photo a lot because it's just it's just a basic photo, but it looks really good when I kind of compare them side by side. Now in this specific case, again, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell massive differences, but for one, what I'm able to tell is with the Galaxy S22, I don't know if it kind of looks like there's like a little bit of a blur over that specific photo. I don't think it looks bad, but I feel like between all of them, both the iPhone 14 and the Pixel 6, I think did a better job than the Galaxy S22 in this specific case. But I think with the iPhone 14, there's something about this specific portion right here that kind of makes it look a little bit better to me between the iPhone 14 and the Pixel 6. The Galaxy S22 photo looks a little bit more, lighter in a way. But I think when it comes down to the Pixel 6 and the iPhone 14, maybe the Google Pixel 6 photo looks a little bit better here. If we go and look at like this top portion right here, I don't know if one looks like less blurry or anything like that between both, but I feel like me personally, possibly the iPhone 14 photo doesn't look as good as something like the Pixel 6 photo in this specific example. So maybe an outdoor, if you're taking at sky photos or something, quite potentially the Pixel 6 might be doing a little bit of a better job in that specific example. But I feel like all these photos did pretty decent, so it's not like a horrible deal. Now this last photo that I took, very, very basic, just took it on a, gray background, and I just took this, whatever this leaf was at the time. And again, I don't really think there's anything that kind of stands out to me. The only thing that kind of even screams to me is that the Galaxy S22 wanted to kind of overblow this specific little leaf thing. I don't know if it was like that crazy big of a deal, but it is one thing that kind of stood out to me here as well. I think the iPhone 14 did a pretty decent job, and I think the Pixel 6 did a pretty decent job too. And I think the Pixel 6 probably looks like the best photo here, although I like how the iPhone 14 kind of grayed out a little bit more of the stone. I think the Pixel 6 is probably the better one when it comes down to this specific photo. So to kind of summarize this whole entire comparison, I really don't know if there's like a complete winner here. I think the overall better camera is probably the iPhone 14, just because it does have a little bit more, I guess, consistency within the photos. But I think the Galaxy S22 has still the one with a little bit more edge, just because that has a little bit more features built in. And I think the Pixel 6 for its price tag did a really good job today as well. So again, I don't know if there's like a consistent winner each individual time, but I feel like with something like the iPhone 14, that is the more consistent one I would probably look at and be like, oh, those photos look consistently better. But I think the S22 has more features, and the Pixel 6 for its price tag, held up extremely well today as well. It even won a few of the photos. So in terms of that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.